Have you ever found yourself right on the edge where everything feels like it's about to collapse? That was me during the Sasquatch 50K shuffle. But what happened out there taught me something really unexpected, something that goes far beyond the trail. If you've ever faced a challenge that felt impossible, this episode is for you. What's up, Dave?
Well, I am back from my very first 50K.
Congratulations.
This is going to be part of my Couch to 50K training.
Nice.
If you want to go Couch to 50K in 50 weeks, right? Or under 50 weeks if you're me. Yeah, I'm going to train that sometime, just not today.
Well, we just want to say, first of all, welcome to episode officially 33 of Embers Rising podcast. I'm Wendy Jae, and today I've got my run or die husband and training partner with me. If you don't know him, David Tucker. I was waiting for you to say your name, but he didn't say it.
It's Run. Oh, well, everybody knows who I am, obviously.
Run or Die.
I'm the infamous co-host who shall remain unnamed. But yeah, Run or Die.
Yeah,
I like that.
Die. So today we're taking you behind the scenes of what David just said, the Sasquatch 50K Shuffle. It was our first 50K ultra race that totally kicked our butts, but gave us some serious lessons in return. And I can tell you, it was a wild, messy, and, well, I'm not going to say we loved every minute of the race out there or even every second. But if you are chasing big goals, big dreams, I think pushing through whatever's in your way, or you're just curious about what it's like to tackle 32 miles of pure grit, you're in the right place. So let's dive in and maybe break a few rules along the way.
Wow, that's weird. 50K curious. Are there people out there that are doing that are actually like 50K curious? I know I never was.
Yeah.
Ever. So
so this normally we break down what our training plan is on every episode, and our training plan right now is recovery. We are in a serious recovery from that. And you would think like it's just not that big a deal because everyone's out there doing 50Ks and 100 miles and 200s and, you know.
Yeah, Moab 240s going on right now.
It's finishing right now.
Probably the winners are moving right in right now.
Right now, yeah. I was just looking at that. So it just feels like you didn't do enough. But that jumps into a whole nother lesson of comparison. So we're not going to say that. For ourselves, this was our first 50K. We trained all year for it. And yeah, we did it. No matter what. And we are so excited to break this down for you of everything that we learned. Do you have any quick updates for us?
No. I'm going to wait for you to go through the pre-programmed notes before I start to just dive into this entire mess that I have going on here.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm excited.
Because you can hear it. It's like a high-pitched whistle on a dog. It's just like, I know he's going to come off the rails on this one.
Okay, well, just to, for our listeners, just so you know, we just finished this race 2 days ago. So it's a little bit hard to actually sit in the podcast studio today with you all. I quickly made my notes this morning, and I have them sitting in front of me so that I made sure to make sure we got through all the lessons and tips to share with you if you are considering doing a 50K, because it is a big deal and it is super important to be organized and trained, not only physically, but mentally for what you're about ready to put your body through. But before we jump in, I do just want to say thank you for hitting play. That's so important to us. And David and I really recognize that you're here with us. I think it's a really big deal, and we seriously appreciate you. So if you are here for some motivation or to get race tips, or you're just checking out who we are, or maybe you're thinking about running a 50K yourself or what it's really like, we're excited to have you with us. So we went through some pretty tough stuff in this race, and the lessons we learned are things you can use in any challenge, I think. So let's grow together and make this count. So thank you for being here. And before we actually get into the adventure itself, I do have a couple of shout outs I want to acknowledge, because we always love to do that with our community. And I think it's important to always just mention everyone behind the scenes who's supporting us out there on our channels. And I'd just like to bring some love in to this episode with those people, because you guys, we get to feature you on our YouTube channel. If you haven't watched us on YouTube, you get to see your shout out. And just the fact that we just love being connected with you. So it's amazing. So I only have a few because we have a lot to share, but I just wanted to pop on these ones because it just kind of made sense for this episode. So I'm just going to dive in. Dave's like nonstop monologue.
Let's go. Let's go. Roll.
So-
I actually have a couple cute kudos myself.
Awesome.
So.
Okay. Yeah. I love kudos. So I posted, I think it was a post about 3 things I'm doing right now and choosing strong. And that was a post that went out on Instagram. I love this handle name. It's called It's Jenna and Dwen, maybe, or Jenna and Wen. It's Jenna and Wen. I think that's right. It's Jenna and Wen. And they say, love the positivity here and so cute and how you deliver this message. I was literally sitting on a rock in our backyard delivering this message on my little yellow sticky notes. Jessie B. Social says, you're on it. AI is huge right now and staying ahead of the trends is crucial. Way to go, Wendy. Thank you, Jessie. Love that. I also had a post about finding your balance, which I think is really important and we forget about, and kind of letting the journey unfold. And this was also from Instagram, digital. I want to say Priyanish. Exactly. Trust the process. Thank you. And then Linda.shine. Totally agree. It's all about that first step and trusting yourself. Keep it up. And proactive marketing says, yes, growth happens when we find that sweet spot. Love that. And I believe this is from LinkedIn. Amna, the solar copywriter, says, love this. The way you framed it is so beautiful. It's not about perfection, but showing up and trusting the process. That growth, even when it feels slow, is what really matters. Man, thank you, Amna, for saying that, because that's really true. You know, sometimes you're like in the mode of like doing the growth and it does feel really slow. It's like going into the gym, lifting the weights, and it feels really slow, but it just takes time, you know? So that's really cool. And then my last one was, we are continually doing shout outs and posts about reminding you that you can find us on YouTube. So we did a post on YouTube, and David Young, who is looking to start his new podcast on YouTube, said, did you find it challenging to get on a podcast going on YouTube? No, David, I didn't. We just started posting on YouTube. So go for it, man. We're supporting you. Like get in there and go for it. We want to check you out. Yeah. So shout out to David Young. And then Justin and Jess says, it's so smart to draw a podcast on YouTube. The audience is huge and it feels a bit more personal than audio only. Yes, it does. And the fact that we get to actually look at you through the lens and say, hey, you can see us and connect with us visually if you want to check out us on YouTube.
It is a wee bit more work than just the audio piece.
It is. It is a little bit more work, but yeah, you can check that out.
Totally worth it.
Lastly, of course, we had the post about us actually being in the Airbnb at in McCall, Idaho, to do the Sasquatch 50K. And there was a couple of shout outs from Putts and Penalties says, oh my gosh, so much prep needed. Yes. Natty_creator says McCall is a perfect spot for some pre-race mountain vibes. I couldn't agree with you more, Natty_creator, because I don't know if you've been to McCall, Idaho, but they have pretty rad trails that you would never think of. It's like a hidden gem. I would think hundreds of people are showing up for this race, and it's like this tiny hidden gem with actually pretty darn good trail running. I mean, I could spend a good couple of months up there just training.
That may have been the most beautiful run ever.
Yeah, if I wasn't in the misery I was. And Mr. and Mrs. D. Adventures, I love that handle, by the way, says, love this. So that's all I'm going to share for now, because I really want to dive in. And if you have a comment for David and I, leave it on his LinkedIn, leave it on my Instagram, or wherever you're watching this, on YouTube, on Spotify or Apple. Yeah, check us out. We love to mention you. So we are also thinking about what our giveaways are going to be next year and getting a merch store up. So yeah, we've got a lot going on.
Awesome. And I love what Putts and Penalties said. And so that's going to be my first kudos.
Let's go.
My first kudos is to the prep queen, right? And I don't know if anybody's got that handle out there, but you should have it. This is for Wendy Jae.
Yes.
Who, you know, I'm not, I want to say, fly by the seat of my pants, but a lot of times, like, I'm just like, things will come together. But I know it's going to come together for sure, because you are the most organized, the most prepared. Like the morning of the race, right? There's just checklists and check, everything you need. And I'm like, oh yeah, I got some candy bars and some water and whatever. I'm good. But thank you so much. If I haven't said it before.
Thank you.
All the preparation, it just pays off, because there's no stress at the beginning of the race other than the race. Everything else is taken care of, which leads me into the second kudos, which was our crew. Turned out to be your sister.
Awesome.
The first time we ever really had, no, not the first time we had crew on a race. Your sister helped us on the 27K. Mm-hmm. But it made all the difference in the world, right? Because as it turns out, the Sasquatch people provided a lot of stuff, But it wasn't necessarily the food that we would normally want to eat in a race like that. I can only eat so many M&Ms. I tried to eat as many as possible, but yeah, having all of your sister, the crew, everything just ready to go. And then the last is the event staff, right? And I think they're the unsung heroes of all of these events because they put in so much work. They were there really weeks before us putting it together, right? And they're probably still there pulling down the flags today because they had a 30 and a 20K on Sunday.
Yeah.
So those were really the things that I wanted to recognize beyond, the comments out there and everything we have to say.
No, I think I think we can just jump right in because the very first thing I wrote down in my notes was all about preparation. And I think that there's so much that goes into the preparation. I do just want to, before we get into that, I do want to break down the venue, just so you all know the venue of this particular race that David and I did. It was at beautiful place in McCall, Idaho, at Ponderosa State Park, which I believe the elevation up there was maybe 5,500, 5,600.
Something like that.
Something like that. And this race was a 32-mile race with 5 laps, but it wasn't the scenery was absolutely beautiful. But you were in the trees a lot, so you didn't see a whole lot. There was a lot of more trees, marsh area, but there was some beauty. Every time we hit this elevation, we had this. Well, I guess it was like almost a 700-foot elevation gain, and you're thinking that's not much, but you have to do it.
It's nothing. Like it's only 700 feet.
We didn't know that you had to do it like, I don't know, on both sides, maybe 4 times or 3 times.
No, 5 times.
5 times. So, well, I mean, just thinking on one side going up and then the other side that were still down and up, down and up. So, I mean, I think the total elevation that we hit was maybe 3,800 of gain and loss across the course. It was crazy. We have spent months training for this, by the way. And just to set the venue, it was on a peninsula, Ponderosa State Park. We were doing like 5 loops, and you were surrounded by a lake, but you were inside the peninsula on these single track trails that went up through the hills, their mountains, and then single track back down to the lake and back up again and back down. So it was a lot of up and down. And the terrain was a lot of rooted rocks, almost like East Coast running. So like a lot of roots, tree roots, and a lot of loose rock, a lot of like real gravelly loose rock.
A lot of things to grab your toes as you're moving along. So on the back side of the trail, beautiful along the lake, sort of going up and down. But like Wendy said, a lot of roots, a lot of things. And because of the tree cover, like it's just a lot of bright spots from the sun and then a lot of very dark shadow. There's just a lot of contrast. And that sort of leads to you needing to pay attention. The loop thing is interesting because it's the first time we've ever done a loop race. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned you were talking to someone and they said they hated loops, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm actually sort of excited to be doing that because we get to go through the aid station like 5 times. I know where it's going to be. We know our own little thing. But the thing is, for me, it made me focus more on the finish line than the journey at a lot of points in time. And I didn't catch that until I was going through the notes today and breaking that down, because for every lap I was like, okay, 4 laps to go, 3 laps to go. I'm halfway through the 3rd lap, right? I'm halfway. Yeah, it just, I've never done that before because I've really just been present in the moment. And so mentally, I think I needed to be stronger there. Now I know next time, right? Because the journey was so incredible. Like the landscape, the lake, the fall colors, just everything that was going on. And the vibe was super cool. But at the end of the day, I think one of the things that I could have done better is next time I'll focus on the moment, on the journey, and not the finish line. What about you?
Yeah,
what could you have done better in this race?
Well, I'm not going to share that yet because I want to break down like my loops, and I really want to share what I've done. And I definitely have a lot of things that I could have done better and that I learned from. But I think the takeaway is for this venue or any venue, the key to your big challenge is preparation. And we just talked about that. Whether it's a race or a personal goal, laying the groundwork sets you up for success. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you do it. And something like what we did with the terrain that we had and the technicality that we had, we didn't know how we were going to feel loop after loop after loop. it was something that we had to discover. So then it kind of pushes you into this place of mentally and physically making an adjustment. Like an airplane, you're kind of adjusting how to be in each section, like you were saying. And I do wish I would have taken more time on the trail to appreciate it, because I was really focused at just racing. But also, I think don't be afraid to adapt your training plan as things are unfolding, because you have to. And breaks my heart, but there was a few people that dropped. There was a few people that dropped. And also, just to give you a big picture, I was thinking there was 30 or 35 racers at this particular.
It was
Sasquatch.
very small. I mean,
it was a small.
I have
race
no
venue.
idea on the most beautiful course in the world why there were that few people.
I would think there would be like 200 or 300.
Yeah,
easily.
and I think the timing there was very one of Idaho's largest marathons was the same.
Was
day.
also going, and then you've got the big ultras going at the same time, and it's just maybe the timing of the race didn't fit. But so let's dive in, because that was just kind of my adventure kind of start. But first lap, let's talk about it. But I do have to recognize the preparation was key for us, and getting the food plan down. And I had a lot of checklists. I had a checklist for my crew, which was my sister. We had incredible. Let me back up. Oh my gosh. So the day before, we actually pre-rode the course, what we thought was the course. They don't give you the course map until the day of. So that was a little bit hard for me to do my meditations and my visualizations, because I couldn't actually see the course. There was just no way. In my mind, I could only picture this park, but I did not know what trails we're actually going to be running. So David and I jumped on our mountain bikes as a cross-training day the day before. Wasn't it the day before, or maybe 2 days before?
It was 2 days.
2 days
before. It was Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's right. We just did a shakeout run the day before, and we rode our bikes, but I think we did it backwards. We rode our bike backwards.
We did it backwards for
yeah.
sure.
And I was like, wow, hopefully this is not it, because this is pretty technical. And that was actually it.
And it was actually it.
It was actually it, yeah.
We were right, not about everything, but we found most of it. We checked out the pictures from previous races and that's this place. And then you look at the confines of the peninsula, because you have the lake all the way around. You're like, well, it's got to be on land. And how are they going to get almost 7 miles out of each loop? And so you're like, well, this is probably going to be it.
Yeah, and you're making up stories in your head of where you think the start and finish is. But it was really good that we did that. I mean, it was like a black diamond, felt like, on the mountain bike trail there, because there was a lot of, when you're not used to riding roots and tree roots, I'm just not. There was just, every turn was more tree roots that you're trying to bump over and going uphill, was amazing. But the other thing we did in preparation, not only previewing the course, was also setting the stage the day before of where my sister was going to set up the crew station, where her aid station was going to be, and what the timing was, and when to get there. And we don't know how many people have registered, so it was
the locals know the good spots, so
right.
they're going to be setting up early, right on top of the good spots, and we're going to end up by the bathrooms where you can smell, the bathrooms.
Yeah, at the same time, it was a state park, so we had a gate issue. So we were like, how are we going to get in through the gate? They open at whatever it was, 7. We were like, let's just get in the lineup of cars, which we're imagining was going to be 300 or more cars there. So we're like, let's just get in the lineup around 650. So that was our goal, to get those 650. But we actually rolled right in, because they had the gate already open for the crew coming into this race. So it was great. We rolled right in. We got the spot my sister wanted. She had a great lake view. She was maybe, a few hundred yards from the start and finish line?
Yeah, if that, right?
If that.
Within line of sight.
In line of sight. It was beautiful. The preparation was awesome, because she had a tent for shade. I had a changing tent there that I could change, clothing changes. And then we had all of the food prep there, including a hot box that I brought, because just to also give you a little note on what the weather was like, our start was around 33 to 37 degrees, somewhere in there. And it really wasn't going to warm up until later in the afternoon, until after about 2:00. And warming up meant close to 65, 70 degrees out there. So, and that does get hot when you are mountains and you are in elevation. The heat just gets a little hotter on your body. So
it was chilly in the morning.
It was chilly in the morning. So you didn't feel like you wanted a hard Cliff Bar first thing in the morning to have to have your jaws go to town on a Cliff Bar, one of the snack bars, right? So, we had hot oatmeal, we had prepped pancakes and syrup, we had prepped hot broth and noodles, we had, bananas, peanut butter, homemade protein Rice Krispie treats, we had peanut butter cookies. We had a lot.
Like I said, the prep queen, there was a seafood buffet on one side. There were
we had
cots
the best
with fluffy
food.
pillows on the other side.
Yeah, we had the best food. So that was awesome. Yeah. So anyway, I just had to mention that. And then like Dave said, I had all of the prep sheets going. My sister was checking us in, marking our time, and then how long we were spending at the at her aid station, for us. So I think that was really important for us because it's going to make sense to you when we break down these laps that we did, these loops that we did on how we had to utilize that aid station.
Cool.
So, all right, let's
Let's
dive
roll.
in. Okay, so our numbers, Dave has listed our numbers here. So I'm just going to pull mine off here and just show you. This was my number 7. I was number 7.
She always gets a lower number than me. Why is that? Oh, because she's going to come in way before I do.
So number 7, this was a truck. And I don't know if you can see this on camera, but literally there is a Sasquatch driving the truck. I just thought that was really cute. So I had to share that.
and I got to be number 22. I hung them up. And mine is a Sasquatch
Walking a dog.
Walking a dog. And yeah, they get a little beat up, but no RFID chip.
You gotta love that
for this event.
Yeah.
It was the honor system. You called out your number every time you lapped through, or you checked into the aid station. They check you in, check you out, which I thought was cool. It was like,
Yeah.
going back to the good old days.
Yeah, it was awesome. All right, let's get into it. So first lap, I took literally it was just a countdown. There was no like blowhorn or anything. It was just like the race directors were standing there. All of us were standing around these picnic tables.
You're not chipped, so there's
You're
no
not
start,
chipped.
finish
There's like
line.
no really line or anything. We're all just kind of standing there and all like just a large group, talking and all this.
There were still a couple of racers actually
Still getting ready?
2, 1, and they're sitting on the picnic table going, is this going to be the start? And they're like, go.
Go.
And you're like, okay, go.
So we went, and my first 2 miles, I got to run with a really cool lady named Chloe, who is an ultra trail runner, and she had just crewed a friend of hers who did, I want to say, the Jug Mountain Ultra Race. I'm not sure if that's the right name for it, but I want to say something about the Jug Mountain Ultra Race. Anyway, she was awesome to run with. I wish I would have got her phone number or connected with her a little deeper because she ended up getting first and set a course record.
Oh, you can track her down
race.
on the socials. So
Yeah.
you know she's there.
I'll find her out. But she was great so thank you, Chloe. Shout out to Chloe for letting me, run with you for the first 2 miles. That was awesome. I was feeling like, man, I'm feeling good. I felt really strong in the first lap. I felt really invincible. I was like, this is great. I'm feeling really good.
So I was pure joy the first lap.
Yeah.
Because you're fresh, right? I knew the climb because we'd looked at it on
Yep.
Thursday, and I'm like, this isn't going to be that big a deal.
Yep.
It always takes me at least 2 miles to sort of shake out whatever's going on that makes me want to walk and, just get my breath going. I don't know. It just takes a while. So after the first 2 miles, that's where the climb sort of started. And I was in a good space, right? So that whole first lap, I was just like, I had just the biggest grin, and I was just taking it in.
You're taking in. Also, the thing on the first loop was we were learning the course. We didn't know what the course was actually going to be. So we were following the flags and looking for anyone that was going to guide us along the loop. That was a big thing. And I did get turned around in one section. I ran into some other runners the other way, and I was like, ooh, okay, I've got to back up. I got to backtrack myself. What's going on here? So, but there was some really a little bit of confusing spots on the trail.
There were some confusing spots
that weren't marked very
in the
well.
trail, so I probably was off trail once also.
Yeah.
And I guess that would have probably DQ'd us. But then again, almost everybody was off course at some point in time.
There was a few, yeah.
So I think it was a level playing field, and according to my watch, I did manage to do more than 50K. So yeah, that was interesting. It was a lesson learned.
So the first lap, I felt really energized, and I kept saying, don't burn all my energy, pace yourself, remember the long-term challenge ahead. That was really my takeaway. But I was starting to feel a hot spot on my left foot. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of feeling this hot spot, but I don't really want to deal with it. Let's just move into the aid station. So when I got into crew station, checked in and decided I'm just going to ignore this. I don't want to deal with it, even though I can feel something developing on my foot, on my left side bunion callus. I just felt like, but which is so strange. I did have that happen in the 27K, but I'm like, I feel like it's bandaged pretty well. It's pretty solid. So I just went on. I remember eating some warm oatmeal and trying a couple of different fuel takeaways with me, and then changed out my hydration bottles.
Yeah, and I get into aid station. Our crew let us know the time, and I said, "What's Wendy's time?" And I'd already calculated based on our pace what it would be, and you were way, way, way ahead of your pace, right? And I'm like, she is burning too hot at the beginning.
I was burning too hot, yeah. And I was also pretty jazzed too, because on the second lap, I was second female at this point, and so I decided to what's better? Do you keep the pain and continue and just move through it? And I thought maybe the pain will subside and I'll just continue to do it. So I'll just do another 7-mile loop with the pain and see if I can do it. However, that was not the right thing to do, because on the second loop, it started slowing me down. And every time my left foot had stepped or even lightly touched a root, which there were hundreds of them, that pain in my foot was excruciating. I was like, oh man, I actually thought that there was the whole bottom of my foot was starting to blister. That's what it felt like. And so now I was looking for, like, every step was the goal was to be on a flat surface, try to find a flat surface in between all those roots. That was crazy. That second loop was pretty tough. And I knew that I needed to do something once I hit the aid station for the third time.
I came in on the second lap and I'm like, all right, half marathon down. I've done this before. I've only got a half marathon to go, and then most of a half marathon after that. So I'm good. Second lap, I changed out of the cold weather gear into some more warm weather gear. I was trying to carry minimum water, so I did pull my bladder out and fill it up. I mean, my water bladder, my backpack, not my actual bladder, right? And fill it up with water. That gives me an excuse to stand around for a minute. But I was feeling good. Like number 2, I was good.
That's great. So I came into, after number 2, moving into 3, I grabbed some more nutrition and hydration. I decided to pad the foot, and I just added more padding into my shoe. I swapped my shoes at that point, and I also changed my top because it was, we had top changes. So I was like, this is perfect. This is, I think, where I was starting to struggle a little bit, because I wasn't getting enough fuel down. It just didn't taste good to me. I was trying different things, and it just still wasn't happening. And my carb electrolyte that I had with me was still maybe half. So I kept that, and I just swapped another water bottle at that point. And then I just kept pushing through. But now I was losing time because I had stopped to actually pad my foot. So I knew that there was runners passing me through the aid station.
Cool. What is that, lap 3?
That was lap 3, which, so yeah, moving through the whole lap 3, I felt that my body was starting to scream a little bit at my foot. And I knew when I got on the back side of that, the other side of the lake side, I needed to do something. So this is where you become a problem solver when you are a racer. And that's what you constantly do. You're always problem solving. Like, how can I problem solve my nutrition, hydration, body pains? And so I'm thinking through all these things, like, what can I do to prep my crew? And I actually even tried to call my crew to say, hey, this is what we need to have ready when I get there, because I'm experiencing these pains. I need to actually rip everything off and see what's really going on, because I didn't know what's going on. I felt like my entire bottom of my foot had started to blister. That's what it felt like. So when I rolled in on lap 3, after lap 3, I took everything off. I looked at it. I'm like, wow, yeah, pretty big blisters. The bottom of my foot was not blistered though, so that was great. But I did have some pretty big blisters on the left side of that bunion where all the calluses were, where I've tried to do so much foot care and it was perfect, and now it was back to major. So we drained those and then rebandaged, repadded, tried to get my foot in the shoe, and it was excruciating. I even tried I had 2 other shoe options. I tried those. I'm like, no, I just can't do it. So then I went for the 4th mental challenge, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to start shuffling. And
it was the Sasquatch Shuffle.
And I really wanted to call you, Dave. I really wanted to call you and just be like, I think I'm quitting. My foot hurts so bad. And I told myself, man, the rest of me is still working though. And I remember at that point I had, because now I was going on lap 4. So I had slammed one of those little Cokes. I had eaten a few more calories, and my foot was bandaged up. And I'm like, the only thing I'm feeling not good about right now is my foot. I mean, it's just so hard to shove your foot in a shoe after seeing what I had just drained and the pain. But man, I have a great lesson about that I'm going to share with you afterwards, because how I bandaged made a huge difference, because 30 minutes later, my foot started feeling better. And when you can say that on that kind of run in that terrain, when you're like going uphill, because it wasn't flat. We were now climbing again, back up to all the rocky stuff, and your foot's like, there's no way your foot's flat.
There was very little flat ground.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you weren't going up or down, it was rolling to the left, rolling to the right. You were sort of edging along that weird lake, not weird lake, but that type of terrain, where it's all uphill on one side and all downhill to the lake on the other side.
Yeah. And on this fourth lap, I had now put in headphones, and I was doing anything to not have to think about the pain. And I was like, this is the struggle. This is the struggle. I know this is the struggle. This is where you want to quit, and you have to do everything you can to just keep going through the pain, because the rest of my body was fine, and I felt like I was floating down the trails on lap 4. I couldn't believe the sections that I was running, because lap 2 and 3, I hadn't run those sections. So now on lap 4, I'm like, yes, I am doing it. I'm so pumped up. I'm so fired up. Dave, I was actually doing a great job. My foot was feeling good. But I was still having trouble with calories. I really was not getting calories in. And the other thing that started happening on lap 4 was my sister had swapped out, my crew had swapped out one of my hydration flasks. And we had, at the house, we had purified water, and then we had like sink water or whatever, kitchen sink water. And I said, can you just pour the bottle in the water? Because she had forgotten that we had some stuff prepped. And she just used the kitchen sink water in my flask. And I had never tasted it. And I can tell you, when you taste water that tastes like metal, it is not flavorful, and you don't want to drink it. And I hadn't pre-tasted that like before I left her. I waited maybe 2 miles, and then I had my first sip, and I was like, oh no, this is horrible. So I thought, you know what? I'll dump the rest of it out, and I'll refill at the hydration station. They literally had, at like 4 miles in, they had just
an igloo cooler sitting on a stand.
Yeah. They had this table. I should have taken a picture. It literally was just a table set up with a gigantic blue cooler, and you could just fill up there. The water was cold. I do have to give them that. It was ice cold. But the water inside that, Dave, was worse. It was came from
maybe more sink water.
It was more sink water. It was like the water from your hose, your garden hose. It was like garden hose water now. I was like, oh my gosh, this is even worse. So I knew on lap 4, I was in the struggle bus, because now the water wasn't going down. My carb electrolyte wasn't tasting good. The food plan wasn't happening. And this was like, I still have another 4 miles or whatever to get to the aid station and swap out. And this would be my last lap. So I knew things were starting to fall apart a little bit for me, and the struggle was happening. Even though the run on lap 4 was awesome and I felt really good. And I was thinking, all right, I'm feeling really good. I'm just going to have to continue to problem solve now at this point. What was happening on lap 4 for you?
Well, so lap 3, right in the middle.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm half through. Right. I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, I've got half of this down. And that sort of energized me a little bit. And then I was running with a couple of people that were faster than me. But I managed to pace them most of the way back to the aid station, right? Like maybe 4 miles. And I got back in. I swapped out my shoes. That was pre-programmed. I wasn't having any problems. I just wanted to prevent, anything from going on. I did have a couple hot spots. I grabbed a sandwich, some pretzels, a couple of other things. I'm like, I got this thing. And then I see the people I've been running with. I'm like, oh, they've already left. I'm going to try and catch up to them. So I tried to catch up to them and eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at the same time.
I should have done that.
I think we trained climbing more, because on the climb, I smoked most of those people and got to the top. Finished my sandwich and everything, and then I just started to sort of feel junky for a second. They passed me there was a concrete or a paved downhill, right, that came off that point until you connected to the next trail. And then
yeah, where the cars were coming up. Cars were driving up. We had to run towards the cars, and then we peeled off on the trail. Yeah.
So there I am on the 4th lap, and all of a sudden I was just like, I don't know. It just left me, right? It was like I emptied the gas tank somewhere. I guess I was maybe waiting for the calories to catch up. And that's where I was sort of thinking, like maybe I should be done on lap 4. I don't have to finish this thing, do I?
Yeah.
But I walked a lot of lap 4 and never saw another person until sort of the end of lap 4 when the leaders passed me, right? And that sort of kicked me back in. I'm like, oh, God, I got to pick up my feet and run a little bit more. But I was hurting on lap 4, and I just remember the 40% rule, right? And that is when your mind tells you it's time to give up, you're probably only at 40% of your physical capacity, which means you've got over 60% ahead of you. And I just sort of remember that I'm like, this is all in my head. It's mind over miles. And I just need to dig in a little bit mentally, stop thinking about the finish line. Now I am on lap 5, right? Like that's all I've got to do. I'd also heard from crew that your feet were blown up and you were having problems. And so I was starting to try and like mitigate that and give them some advice. Like when she gets back in, she's finished. It's probably going to be another hour for me, and that's an hour she can work on her feet, get her back to the Airbnb, and then come back. I'll be done, or you can watch me finish. So that was fortunate that happened that way.
Yeah. So before I get into my mental boost and the grit here in finishing 4th and into 5, there was these 2 guys I ran into that I think was on the first lap, and they were so fast. I'm maybe thinking one of the guys' name was Wyatt, but these 2 guys did not finish the whole 50K. They did a 30K, and I remember seeing them at the aid station. They were in so much pain. I felt so bad for them. One had a hamstring issue, and I'm not sure what happened to the other guy. And first of all, I was so jazzed to see them. I'm like, Ann, I just saw you out there. That's so cool. You're doing so great. And then they never left the aid station. That was it for them. So I'm not sure what happened. There was another girl that I ran into. She passed me, and then I caught up to her. And I passed her, and she was walking. And I said, hey, man, great job. What's going on? And she was just like, my knees have blown up. The uphill and the downhill is just excruciating for me. She said, I'm pretty much going to walk the entire uphill at this point and probably walk half the other side, And she came in, I want to say, maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes behind me, actually. So she did run somewhere, obviously. She was probably pretty fast on the flats. There was a couple, I would say, not really flats, but there was some road sections that you could pick up speed on for sure. So remember the downhill road down to Lily Marsh turnoff? There was a couple road sections.
Yes.
Kind of small dirt road sections.
Leaving the aid station all the way to the climb section was pretty much flat and sort of like a wide trail.
Yeah, wide trail.
Which was nice.
Yeah, so she could have picked up speed there. Anyway, really glad that wasn't me, because I was like, wow, man, through all the injuries I've had this year, and if you've been following my journey, I have had everything from obviously major toes, blister blow-ups, to quadricep tendonitis, to calf cramping, to a deep piriformis muscle pull. I mean, I've had everything this year. It's just been ongoing. So for me to not have any quadricep issues, knee issues, hamstring issues, I was like, oh man, amen. This is great. So I roll into from 4th lap, and I knew that my feet were feeling okay, but I am kind of tanking and not feeling really good. And there wasn't the happiness on my face. And you can see it in the picture that I'll put up. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see it in my face when I go up and I'm climbing the top of the hill. I literally had no energy, David, to even shoot a video. I couldn't even pull out my phone for a video. I couldn't even hit the GoPro for the video. I had nothing in the tank.
I dropped off my GoPro at the beginning of the 3rd lap and never picked it up. I'm like, it's just another thing to carry.
I know.
I've got my phone if I really want to post something, which I did. I posted something live on Facebook as it was happening.
So Yeah, so we roll in. My mother and her dear friend Linda were actually there at the cruise station. They came in. They had been staying in a town about 30 miles away at their cabin for the weekend, and they came up to just see us at one of the loops. So they came up there, and I literally saw them, didn't even give them a hug or nothing for like less than 3 minutes. I was in that station, swapped out clothes. It was my last lap. Now it was getting hot. I was trying to just sit down, drink another Coke. I had packed a little bit more fuel, didn't mess with my feet, and I was pretty burnt. But I was also rushing because I knew I was behind. So I was like, man, I really got to get going. I just can't, I couldn't even take time to give anybody a hug. I was just so super focused. So the look on my face, and this goes to show that you need to tell your crew people and people that love you, that normally see you happy and chipper, when they see you in a distress, it a little bit freaks them out because you are focused and there is this space that you have to get into, because now they don't know what you've been experiencing out on the trail. They don't know what you've just come through. And now you're going into this mental boost, this grit that you have to get into a different gear. And it's not what they normally see you as. So they are very concerned, you know? And I think it's something that when we had our crew meeting the day before, that I had shared with my sister, you know, here is how we are going to come in, and just know that we're okay. We will be okay, but we're not going to be the happiest people on probably lap 5. Just know that, you know?
And my defense against the unhappiness is a forced smile, right?
Yeah.
And so everybody's like, "Oh, you're always smiling, and oh, you must be having such a good time." I'm like, "Yeah, it
Not
sucks."
really, yeah.
But I'm forcing it out there, right? Just for my own good, because, you know, I mean, you have to listen to your body when you're out there, but not too closely, because it sends signals to your mind like it's sit down, time to quit, right? So you want to monitor it. And I've decided that if there's ever a point in time in these runs where I need to give up, quit, stop, however you want to frame that, your body will let you know, because it won't do the thing anymore, right?
Yeah.
It won't bend at the joint.
Starting to
or
shut down.
whatever. But the rest of it is, for me, is just that mental chatter, fighting against myself. And it was interesting. So we're moving. You've moved through lap 5. Give us the finish.
I'm going to move through lap 5 right now. So the interesting thing is, like, right before I left, before I left into lap 5, my sister reminded me and said, "Hey, do you need to use the restroom?" And I'm like, "Yes, thank you." So I peeled over, went to my changing tent, tried to pee and realized I couldn't pee. And I'm like, okay, maybe I just need some more water. And I took off. And we swapped again my water with, again, a different flask, which tasted horrible. And I didn't know that again. But I took off. And no, let me think about that, actually. No, that's not right. We didn't swap my flask. I actually kept what was in there. And I decided this was not the right call, Dave. I didn't tell you this. I did not swap my water flask. Because it was half full. I said to myself, I'm going to ditch my carb electrolyte to lighten my load, and I'm going to just refill at the hydration station. That was my goal. I was going to refill at the hydration station, my whole bottle, and just take it, whatever it is.
And what were you thinking? You're going to save weight? You're going to save time?
I was thinking save time, weight, all that. So I take off, and I'm feeling pretty good in that first mile. I'm like, okay, I'm pretty good. Then all of a sudden on that second mile, I was like, man, I really need to pee. And I actually tried to find, there was actually now a lot of people on the trail. That's the other thing about doing the state park trails, is it's public. And so there are people that are mountain biking, hiking, exploring, walking, and you've
just
got
staring
families.
At you, wondering what you're doing with a number.
Yeah, and so you are navigating this on the trails. It's not like you're running this trail and there's just nobody there. You're navigating, people are coming towards you, and there's groups of people, you know, so it was a little bit tricky to run through that. But now I'm trying to find a place to pee without people. And so I'm like looking. I try to pull over. I couldn't pee. And so I was like, that's super weird that I can't pee. So anyway, I get up to the top and I'm in such distress. Here's the photo on YouTube right here where you can see it in my face, that it's just the energy on my face, Dave, is completely drained out. You can actually see it on my Instagram post too, that it's just the energy is just drained out. And I couldn't even say anything on the video. I literally was like, I've got to get through lap 5. So I cross down where that road that you said, where cars come towards you, but you have to run the road down to peel off on the single track. And I start going through that, and I'm realizing that I'm just struggling. It's actually hard to run. I'm really struggling. Now I'm power hiking. I am now power hiking. through this. And I'm getting on the backside and I'm trying to problem solve. What is going on? I'm not feeling good. I can't pee. I am drinking the water. I did fill up water from the hydration station. Again, tastes terrible, but I was trying to sip on that. I'm not getting calories down. I really wasn't feeling good. The only thing that was kind of keep my mind going was one step at a time and just think sections. Don't think about the whole thing, like the next big giant hill. Just think tiny sections. Like I was micro breaking down the trailhead, knowing that this was the 5th time I've done this. So I knew those sections up to this tree or up to the bottom of the lake, where it kind of flattened out and then you went straight back up again. I was just like micro sections to get through there. But, I was in a dark place and I knew I could make it, but it was being uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable. And I'm sorry if you're listening to this right now and you're like, just get it out. I'm having a tough time trying to find the words to share with y'all because it was just so mind-blowing that I had to dig so deep and I was pushing my physical limits. And the fact that my energy was almost gone and I couldn't pee and there was pain in the area that I was just, wow. Even my music wasn't even helping at this point. Yeah, like the music wasn't even drowning out the pain that I was feeling. It was just like you just want to rip the headphones off. Now you're just I won't even need the music, That's where I was. So for me, and all I kept thinking was the train of people that were behind me. The train of people behind me. So I knew once I came through the finish line, there was no really finish line, by the way. I mean, you literally rolled up to a picnic table finish where the race directors were, and they had this funny little chart, which I'll also post a picture right here where you can see it, where it's a chart where they are putting sticker stars by your name because it's a small group. So every lap that you finish, you get a star. And so you had to get 5 stars to complete 5 laps. And then they just mark your overall time when you came in. It was
old school. It was old fashioned.
It was old fashioned, yeah, but it was great.
And I noticed you have the Sufferfest Laser Goat T-shirt on today.
I wore that today for this episode because I'm a big believer in the Sufferfest. I don't know if you want to talk about Sufferfest.
Well, Sufferfest was a sort of an old school program for cycling, online on the trainer. And
wasn't Wahoo?
Yeah, it's purchased by Wahoo now. I still think they have the old school, but the Laser Goat, he was the one who would shoot lasers out of his eyes for the people that were in the back of the peloton, the Couchlandians, right? Like if you're a Couchlandian and you're not at the front and you're not pushing like Gunther said you should push, the Laser Goat would take you down and he would kill you.
Yeah, and if you've done the Sufferfest, man, leave us a comment below because we want to know what's your favorite Sufferfest. We've done them, so yeah, we've binged those things. It's awesome from Wahoo. That was amazing. Yeah, so I did wear this. This was my Sufferfest. I had a Sufferfest day.
Every day.
Not every day, but on race day, this was a Sufferfest for me. So when I rolled into the aid station, lap 5, finishing, and it's so great to hear your name, at least the race directors. There was no one there at the finish line for me. I thought my mother and her friend would stay there. In fact, I saw a lady at the top of the hill thinking that it was my mother, and it wasn't. I was just so bummed. But, and my sister was so busy at her crew station. She had not even, I think I had come around so fast. She was cleaning up to get me to get in her car to take me back to the Airbnb in this short amount of time that she had to get back to come pick you up, as you were finishing pretty fast.
And I did let her know when I left for lap 5, I'm like, do whatever you can to pick this up. I'll help you with the rest. But when Wendy comes in, just
ditch it and go.
Just get her to work on her feet. Because I was imagining, these giant blisters everywhere. And so.
Yeah, so I finished. I tried to go to pee again. It didn't happen for me. I went and sat down on a rock by her car. She was putting things in a wagon and this little wagon trailer on 4 wheels that was dragging, all of the equipment and the crew stuff back up to the car. And it was like this long 20-minute wait. And I'm like, oh man, we're just burning time. And I'm just not feeling good. And I'm worthless at this point. I can't even help her. My energy's completely drained. I'm just not feeling good. I just needed to get back. And I didn't even want to deal with my feet. So I don't even want to get into now where we're at now because I wanted you to finish lap 5.
I came in, I suffered lap 4 because I had pushed too hard. So I did a lot of walking. I had a lot of mental talk. I saw no one out there for most of that lap. Literally, just whatever timing it was, not even like the tourists and the trail walkers and the mountain bikers, they were all gone. And so I had that alone time where you can confront your inner critic, right? On lap 4. And I argued with that inner critic for quite a bit. But as I got into lap 5, I said, okay. So I set this imaginary delusional time goal that I wanted to finish the race in. That's not happening. I'm clearly going to make all the cutoff times, so I don't need to worry about that. What was my preparation for this race? What did I say I wanted to accomplish? How am I going to win the day? And for me, winning the day meant finishing, right? And so I'm like, all right, here we go. There's no time delays. It's just me against me now for this last lap. And I just need to finish it. And I just leaned into it. And I actually ran a whole lot more on lap 5 than I did on lap 4, even during the uphill. And yeah, that just sort of carried me to the end. I'm like, this is it. I said I was coming to finish, and I finished. So I feel like I won the day.
Yeah.
And yeah, the same thing at the finish line. There were, a group of people. They yelled my name out. They tried to give me more candy bars. I grabbed a thing of Pringles, and they put my 5th star up and immediately went, your sister had everything packed up in the cart, right, to get it up the hill.
Yeah.
And I didn't even change my shirt. Like, I just got in the car and drove back to see what was going on in Wendy Jae, because I knew it was going to potentially not be great, because I've seen you after pushing yourself. Well, over the last 10 years of loving you, you push yourself, right? Like, that's just who you are. That's what you're made of. And sometimes that doesn't work out physically for you so well.
Yeah, I got back to the Airbnb. I went straight to the shower. I did not, I'm a big toe taper, so every toe was taped. My feet were completely taped. I didn't take anything off. I just stood there in the shower, just trying to collect myself, trying to figure out, I think the pee problem was the biggest concern at this point. I had let you know that I wasn't peeing, and what are we going to do about it? So now it was like hydration was everything. I remember just sitting there after the shower and just trying to get down a fluid as much as possible. And it took about 7 or 8 hours for me to actually start going to the bathroom. And that was really hard because you're concerned, you don't know how much it's going to be, and your stomach's just turned. I was in the chills section, and I'm super glad, by the way, that I brought a heated blanket. That was like I always bring a heated blanket because it happened on the Grand Canyon
After the Grand Canyon, where I went into shock.
Dave went into shock, and he did the heated blanket. But
and it was pretty warm out, so...
looking back at this, I just think the race wasn't just about finishing 32 miles. It was about growing through discomfort and working yourself through the hardest moments. I learned more about myself and the mental resilience, that it is a step-by-step, just like running step by step. When I knew that it was hard, just saying to myself, I really wanted to run, but I had a power hike sections. But even though I wanted to run, it was step by step. And I think the lesson is that into every future race and every challenge, life is going to throw a problem at you. And it's up to you to be the problem solver. Up to you to be the problem solver. It's up to you to challenge your mindset. It's up to you to, when there are moments when you're questioning your why are you doing this, how are you going to push through? And, running ultras teaches us a lot about life, and you're constantly navigating. It's not about the speed or even the pain. It's really about the grit that you have moving forward. And you had just said that, Dave, no matter what, the lessons like this can be applied to our daily life. And, it's something to ask yourself, what did this race teach you about the bigger challenges in life? How can listeners now apply these challenges to their own life?
Yeah, running is for me, it's become an incredible tool to master your mind, right? Because so much of it is time that's spent alone. And when you're alone, that's when you have those tough conversations with yourself. And it's when you sort of like bump up against your deepest fears and those sorts of conversations. And for me, it goes back to the beginning of this podcast when I said, hey, let's teach Couch to 50K, right? And there's only one thing you really need to know, whether it's Couch to 50K or Couch to $1 million or Couch to whatever, right? We all start out on the couch of life at some point in time, and there's only one thing you need to do, and you need to decide, right? And you need to decide why you must do it. For me, why am I running this like in this season of my life? Because I always said I would. And so I'm going to follow through with that. So I just dedicated this year to running, right? And we'll see where it takes me. But literally at the beginning of this year, I couldn't run for 30 minutes without, dry heaving in the ditch. So now we're doing 50K.
You're a beast.
And I don't know where it's going to lead me. But Wendy Jae will let me know. She'll let me know, like, hey, here's your number. You've signed up for this thing. I'd be like, all right, I know I'm going to be running against my mind the whole time. And that is the thing that I think I enjoyed the most about it. I did imagine that we would spend more time together. I see the couples that they're happily like running together and they're chatting and, sharing some snacks. I guess that's not us, right? Because you are a beast also. You are faster than me. You've run a lot longer than me. And I think you can endure more pain than I'm willing to take on. But yeah, well, I guess we'll get some runs in if you want to slow down. But it's not the couple's activity that I thought it was going to be.
It's not. The
right?
training is, though.
The
training has been.
Right,
yeah, the training has been. I think it's more about that. I want to drop into our takeaways for this episode. And when I look back, I want to share some things that I think might really help you if you are thinking about doing a 50K. One of the number one things is to trust your training. Stick to your plan. Do not look at what others are wearing, what others are carrying. Do what you know that you have trained with. The biggest thing that went through my mind showing up at 35-degree weather was, what are people wearing and what is their hydration plan? I was looking at what their packs were, what they were carrying. I saw people just doing a handheld. That's it. They didn't have anything with them.
Shorts and a t-shirt.
Shorts and a t-shirt.
It's 35 degrees.
35 degrees. And it was just not me. My body temperature is just lower. And I knew that I needed more coverage. And I knew that I could peel things off. You just got to stick to what you have trained with. Don't make a last minute decision. The other thing is when you, always become a problem solver as a runner. You're always problem solving, and do it early. And don't ignore hotspots. When hotspots appear, I should have dealt with it on lap 2 rather than lap 3, or chafing or nutrition issues. Get to the aid station or stop and deal with what you have with your pack and start working on it. I have to say that one of the biggest things for the blister healing is hydrocolloid bandages are incredible. And they're not just a bandage. They actually have a medication in the bandage that helps soothe open blisters. So when you pop a blister, when you drain a blister, they're incredibly painful. But if you stick a hydrocolloid bandage over that, which is what I had done, you alcohol wipe it, you drain it, you let the alcohol wipe dry, you stick the hydrocolloid bandage on, and then I KT taped over that twice, plus a callus pad, and then KT tape the callus pad on. So I had 3 sets of KT tape on with pad, and that was really uncomfortable in my shoe. However, 30 minutes later, that medication, that hydrocolloid bandage kicked in, and I didn't have that pain as bad. It was really incredible. So that's something to really think about. And I always say pack smart, always carry extra, KT tape, bandages, hydration options. Hydration, I learned something too by watching one of the ultra runners the other day. We had watched, and I wish I would have done this, but and when I talk about takeaways and things lessons I learned, I would have definitely used my bladder, my hydration bladder, instead of just my flasks, just to have another bottle of just straight electrolytes. I think that would have really been helpful. And also pack another hydration flask in the back of your pack as a backup.
I think one of the lessons
that's a really good lesson
we have learned this year is you can never have too much liquid.
Right?
And every time I'm thinking of like space or weight or any of those sort of things,
slows you down.
I need to slap myself and say,
me too.
You need water. And so if something goes wrong, right, like that
100%.
That mid aid station where they had water only, it was unmanned, right? Like it could just vanish because there's people out there. There's weird people. I know it's happened in other races like Moab 240.
The water was gone.
Yeah, they got to the first aid station and someone had piped the water drops. So,
so having an extra flask in your pack, we wear the Solomon Advanced Skin 12 hydration vests, and there is a slot in the back to pop in another I think it's 500 milliliter or 17 ounce hydration flask of fluid. And I would definitely do that. Also, if you're not peeing, you're in trouble. So stay ahead of hydration. You're in trouble. If you're not peeing, you're already in the dehydration mode. So you've got to continue getting fluid in. And, ultra races that's what they're about. They're about enduring mental and physical pain. So you have to mentally prepare yourself. And I think now we're in the space of recovery. And what does recovery take? And going through that at the moment, because we just finished 2 days ago, maybe a day ago. I mean, it's not even 2 days. It's not even 2 full days.
Yeah, right, because we woke up the next morning. Checkout time is 10 a.m., so
packed our stuff and drove home.
We had to pack our stuff and then drive, which I think that's why my knee is a little junky today, because it's like, all right, I was okay with the running, but now you're going to drive for a few hours.
Yeah.
So, in this journey this year of us running, if you could go back today and give us as a couple advice back in January when we said, okay, we're going to do this running thing this year, what advice would you give us? Like knowing what you know now.
Knowing what I know now? I think each of you needs support from each other. I think more support is better. I wish I could be more supportive of you. And I found that yesterday. It became a very solo experience, and I couldn't participate in supporting you, especially when I was in the pain I was. And that made me feel really bad because I couldn't be there for you. I couldn't be there for you at the finish. I've been to every finish for you, and I couldn't be there for me. It was just devastating for me to not be able to support you there. But looking back as a couple, I think the training together is so important, and the support, cheering each other on, and just also rubbing each other's feet, taking care of each other. That's what it's about, right? I mean, it's the races are great, but also the training is actually fun. It's been fun to get up at 4:00 in the morning, summers, trying to beat 100-degree heat and be done by 8:00,
But just to frame this correctly, really, since we've been together, we've gotten up at 4 or 5 a.m. and done something, right? Whether it's surfing or, going on a
mountain bike ride.
I hate to call it a bike ride because, when you knock out 75 miles on a bike, it's like, I know you're riding a bike, but it's at a different intensity level.
Yeah.
So, our health has always been one of our highest values, if not our highest value. You can't be there for each other if you don't have your health. I think if I was to go back, I would encourage myself to actually enter a few more events. What I have found, especially with that very first event, the race to Roby Creek, that first half marathon, is I didn't recognize my competitiveness versus where I actually am at in my skill level. And that's important, right? Because like that first race, I just burnt myself out in the first few miles trying to keep up with people that I wasn't prepared to keep up with. And so as we've gone through these events, each one of these races, I get a little bit better. Like I think I got over it a lot at the Fit One race where there was like 3,000 people at the starting line, whatever it was, 2,000 people. It was a lot. It was a massive crowd. And I was like, okay, I don't need to keep up with these people. I just need to do my plan, and win my day the way I need it to go down.
So let me ask you, turning the tables here, what advice can you give to couples from your side towards your partner?
Well, giving advice for couples versus just the running.
Yeah.
Just
from you and I, what we've experienced together. Yeah. Because there's a lot of couples that don't run together, and it's pretty rare to have two ultra runners together who train together, do the race together. I mean, usually it's like one of the others, like the crew, and we're not crewing for each other. We are training and we are racing, and we are both competitors out there. It's hard to even grab video because our head is in the game,
I don't know if I'm going to be able to articulate this as well as I want to, but there's the love, there's the compassion, there is the care, right? All of those things that you just want, like the person you love to be okay. But at the same time, they're not going to be at the beginning of the race.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's rare for you to come out of an entire race, especially as we start to gain more miles and not go through something. So at the same time, you need to sort of put that in a different department and say, I know they're going to be okay. I know they're competent in what they can do. And I need to sort of focus on what I need to do, because if you're running for, 7 or 8 hours completely worried about someone else, just know that they're worried about you too, and you'll end up being their worst nightmare, right? Because you won't have taken care of yourself.
So at the end of the day, you're saying don't worry about your partner.
No, I'm saying, and that's where I don't know the words for it, right? It's like that care, but don't
focus on it.
Don't focus on it. Yeah, don't obsess, right?
You have to trust that they're okay. You have to trust that they're okay.
And that's why I told, crew, like, get Wendy back. She knows best how to handle her feet. And what I know is not best is for her to stand on her feet for another hour waiting for me to come in, when in that hour you would have completely been able to at least assess and start to resolve what's going on. So
yeah,
I know how much you wanted to be there for me, but by taking care of yourself, you were there for me.
Yeah, and
that's a strange thing to say, right?
It is.
Like, go take care of yourself. That's how you're taking care of me.
And I had to trust that. And, I didn't actually deal with my feet until yesterday. So once I took the bandages off, or the KT tape, and every toe was taped, all the sides of my feet are taped. But once I took that off, I didn't look at them because I knew it was bad. And I just thought, I'm not going to deal with this until I can pee. The first, I have to set this in order of priority of my health, and peeing is number one. I've got to be able to pee. And then number two, I can get to other issues going on in my body, pains, strains, blisters, whatever. But peeing is number one. So I was like, I will deal with feet later. So I didn't really look at my feet for over almost 24 hours, and then I thought I'd deal with it the next day. I figured it out. So yeah, they're getting better, and we're in recovery mode, and I'm feeling better. And we got a great night of sleep. I didn't sleep race night. I usually don't, and I didn't sleep the day after the race very well at all. I was up at 3 a.m. and sleeping on the bathroom floor and trying to go pee. And yeah, I ate pancakes at 3 o'clock in the morning. It was very strange. I was like, I'm really hungry. It was very strange, what your body goes through, and you're just trying to get yourself back together. But here we are in recovery mode, Dave. And I think, it may be another episode that we do, because I know we need to close this out. But I think as we're moving through every race and we put more miles on ourselves and we continue to stay with our training plans, our recovery becomes faster and easier. We do get the right recovery, and we are healing, where it used to take us maybe a week or 2 weeks. We are compacting that down. Still need recovery time for sure. I'm not going out on a 30-mile run tomorrow, but you're starting to feel better because our bodies are adjusting and getting used to what we're doing them, as well as the recovery we're putting into it. And so I think that's
I know it's already time
a
for
big success.
A shakeout run tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
So, but I'm glad I've been able to put myself in that position from the beginning of the year to now, where I can say that, where my shakeout run used to be my run, right?
Yes.
Well,
let's wrap this up.
I'm excited that we don't have anything else on the calendar for this year in terms of running, other than the turkey trot, which I imagine I'm going to get one of those turkey legs and just run along, and the Jingle Bell Jam or whatever that is. Those will both be fun runs, though, to support the local community, which is a good way to bring everybody together.
Yeah, we'll do those ones for sure. But let's wrap this up. I'm going to be posting my race results out on my website. I'm going to add a new page. I think that's really cool, so that everyone can see what races we have, and then any events coming up. If you want to join us, we'd love for you to join our events. That way you guys know. I hadn't thought about doing that until I saw somebody else do that on their website. So I'm going to add that to my website so that you guys can see, hey, this is where I'm placing, this is where I'm at. And if you want to come run with one of our runs for 2025, we would love that. So gosh, thank you for joining us. And just, this is just such a cool episode, because conquering something that we set out all year to do, a 50K, we almost didn't do it, Dave. We almost canceled after that 27K, and then we added this race on at the last minute, said we're going to do the 50K shuffle, Sasquatch 50K. So I just think it's amazing, whatever you're trying to tackle in life, whatever your tough challenge is, it is really about showing up, doing the work, pushing through when things get hard, like David said. And the Sasquatch 50K shuffle, man, it has taught us it's not about perfection out there. It is not. And
yeah, and put it on your calendar for next year if you want to run in the most beautiful situation in the world, right? If water, woods, and fall colors are your thing,
McCall, Idaho. Bizarre.
Let's go.
Bizarre location, but pretty cool. You'd think like something like, no way, man, Colorado's way more beautiful. This place is a hidden gem. Come check it out. And they would love your support. But it is all about persistence and staying consistent. Preparation is everything, as you know. Consistency is everything, as you know. Be mentally tough. Keep the grit with you. I mean, you've got it no matter what. Dig in and grab hold of that mental toughness. Train with people that are better than you. Train with people that are better than you. That's what Dave and I need to find.
It's not hard for me to do. So
Dave and I need to find more people to train with that are better than us. And yeah.
Oh. Wait, so you were number 1 for your age group?
Yeah.
4th female overall.
Yeah.
I have no idea where I finished overall, but I was number 1 in my age group. There are some benefits to being older, but I had to throw that in because I have to toot my own horn. All right, sign us out.
Yeah, I think I was. I think I finished in. I was in the top 10 of everybody. So that's actually pretty good. Anyway, thank you so much for being here and joining us. We are super appreciate that you just push play and just we're hanging out with this whole time. And if you stick with us the entire time, we just want to say thank you so much. If you could just take a moment to, because we're a new podcast, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or rate us on Spotify, or please leave us a message on YouTube or hit the subscribe bell, because we do notice that 70% of you that are listening to YouTube have not hit the subscribe. We would love that so you can get notifications of when we release our new episodes out there. And we just want to say you guys are amazing. We believe in you no matter what your challenge is. Let us know what other episodes or, hey, races that you think that we should go join in 2025 as we're putting our calendar together for next year, because we've got some things really excited that we are excited to start training for after this recovery. And let us know. But at the end of the day, we just want to say, keep going, keep pushing through. And like we always like to say at the end of our little podcast, we love you guys and aloha.